Drew Yorke Show, live from Festival d'été de Quebec in Quebec City. This is a really special episode of the Drew Yorke Show. We're usually not this far away from Toronto, and it's actually funny. I don't know why we're not just doing this in Toronto. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. This is somebody I really wanted to have on the show. Like, since I started the show, like, it's like I had this list on Google Docs of people that I wanted to have on, and like, she's been on it since the beginning. So this is a really special episode. Haviah Mighty, please come join me up here.
Oh, hey.
Thank you
What's
for
up?
doing this.
Of course, man. Good to see you again.
You too. It's funny. You've been like performing a lot.
Yeah.
Like this new music. It's every time I open, the last time I saw you, I told you this. Like every time I open Instagram, it's like a new video or like a new crowd of you. Like just, and it's always like, I saw Devontae the other day.
Yeah.
And we were talking about you, and he was like, "You perform like you're like 6 feet tall."
I hear that a lot, but as a short person, you got to take up a lot of space on stage, and I don't want not that it's a conscious effort, but like I don't think that my height really comes off much. Like even when you are watching me live, when I come down off the stage, it's like, oh, shocking, which maybe is the energy being so loud and large and big, but that's always been me. So,
I remember like the first time that we had like an interview, you told me about your family's history with music, and that like it's always been a part of your family's like culture and like life. What are the conversations with your because remember like you told me your older sister Alisha was the first in your family like to like they put her in music lessons like pretty young, and then like just kept putting the rest of your family like as like more siblings came like more and just kept putting you in music like as like more siblings came more in music.
I think for her, like she just showed an interest in music really early, and so that's like my parents are musical, but I think for her, like her first like responsive like interactions of like communication have all been kind of musical, and so before she was responsive to like talking to people, she was responding to like the specific song in that commercial or certain stuff like that, and so I think my parents recognized, okay, like, this is a keen interest or a keen like skill, like she has a skill specific to music, so they put her in piano lessons, which she really resonated with. And yeah, it's just become like I guess the mighty tradition for all of the kids to be involved in music. And it luckily was not anything very forceful. There's definitely a forceful aspect to it in that you have to practice, and your parents let you have to practice. And I think my work ethic comes from that time in my life where I had to kind of keep up with my sisters, and there were like performances we had to do, adjudication at like the New Conservatory of Music at the end of every year. There's like award scholarships on the line. This is how you're going to pay for your music lessons next year.
You said it's in Scarborough, right?
It is in Scarborough, yeah. And Mr. Hopp, he ran that spot. My old singing teacher, Lucia, she was my, I actually did an interview recently where they brought her out, and I hadn't seen her in like 20 years. So that was really, really incredible.
That's crazy.
And I was just so happy to be able to tell her to her face, thank you for like those little gems that you've instilled in me that I'm, kind of exercising now. So
that's crazy. But
yeah, like just very, very inspired by my sisters, and just, music has really been a very prevalent part of my beginning, and it makes sense that I'm here now.
What does Alisha think of your music now? Like, what are the conversations?
Oh, she's saucy though. Like Alicia's saucy. Like she like can read music and write music and like grade music, and like she's on that realm. Like she's
like
a teacher.
theory.
She's very theory-esque, but she's also saucy. Like she could listen to a track and then just play it. Like and we listen to the same style of music, so like she'll like just do jam sessions over my music. I actually would love to do like acoustic versions of some of my music in the future with her.
I was thinking like on the wake, I was thinking about this yesterday, and I think like you could definitely do a like at least an EP, but more. You could probably do like a whole project as like a like not like a family band, but like a mighty mixtape.
We'll see
what I
the
mean?
Future holds. Yeah, for sure I could. Yeah. It'll be fun.
Because your brother could like produce all of it.
Yeah, and he's super soft. Like I produce, but my brother produces, and like he has a different level of time because he's 18 and he found his passion in being a producer, and I'm not 18 anymore, and I also already found this passion of mine. But as a producer, he's dope. Like he's pumping out great instrumentals like every day. I'm like, oh, this is
on Instagram. I see like he's always posting new shit, and it's like, yo, this is like a good beat for Gucci Mane. And it's like, he's like shooting the shot every day.
Actually, the lineup that is going to be at this stage right here that we were talking about, who are we seeing tonight? Logic, Gucci,
Jazz Cartier, Gucci Mane, Lil Pump.
Yeah, he could produce for every one of those guys. every one of those guys easily, not just saying that because this is fam. Like, I don't know definitively that I think that I could just produce for those 4 people. Like, I have a very specific sound that really works for, like, me. But he could produce for anyone, and I just think that it's going to take him really far. I hope that, I hope he could do some great stuff, not just because he's my blood, but he's really talented.
Do you know of any other stuff he's got, like, working on right now? Is, like, other projects or other people or anything else that's, like, come of, like, 13th Floor?
No, not yet. I think, like, he's still... Just fixing my hair. I think he's still... I think he's still just getting his feet wet, his first... I think he's still shocked that, his music, it lives on 13th Floor and that it's just out there like that. But I think he's grateful for it. I think he's just building up his chops now. And, probably looking into going to school. And, like, I still have a very, like, let's move forward and progress household. You know what I mean? So, like, you can't just sit there and make beats all day and mom and dad are going to be like, yeah, just, like, you have to be showing initiative. And only when things start to roll can that be, like, your full time. So, like, for me, I just walked away from my full-time job because music.
Shout out to Long and McQuaid.
Shout out Long and McQuaid.
Shout out to Long and McQuaid for these mics, for the mixer right now.
SM58s.
Bro, I had these for a month.
Looks like a Tascam device.
$60.
Mm-hmm. We have great used products. I mean, they have great used products. I no longer work there, but I worked there for almost 4 years. So, like,
just instinctively, we have great used products.
Yep. Yeah. Would you like to finance that, sir? But yeah, like, as someone who's, like, kind of been involved in music for a long time, my brother didn't have lessons the way we had lessons. He took band and he plays sax, but he wasn't instilled in, like, lessons. And so that regiment, I don't know that he has that.
He's the youngest, right?
He's the youngest, yeah. And that's why he didn't have it. We had already moved to Brampton at that point. We lived in Toronto when we were commuting to Scarborough like that.
Yes.
So when we moved to Brampton, it was like we knew we were no longer doing that commute. So it was phased out the year we moved. So my brother was born after that.
Did you make that commute for a while, though, when you first moved, like, from Brampton all the way to Scarborough?
Probably phased it out within a year and a half, I'd say. Yeah. I think, like, moving
was that hard?
A part of the change.
Was that like was that an adjustment too? Like, no, it's not being at the conservatory anymore.
Oh, absolutely. That's how I started rapping. That's how I fell into rap. So I'm grateful for it.
Oh.
I never rapped before the age of 12.
What were you doing?
I was singing.
Oh.
I took singing lessons.
Right.
Yeah, I took singing lessons for 7 years. And all of my sisters were in piano lessons. So, like, I was, very responsive to melodies. That's why my music sounds the way it does now. But when the lessons stopped, it was because we won too many scholarships. And
you told me this.
Yeah, and we had to, which is, like, shout out to them, but, like, other people had to get them. So it got to a point where it was kind of like, oh, we need to disperse it a little bit more. So we literally could probably no longer afford to attend. Also, we moved to Brampton better. Like, we now had our own house, not like this kind of, like, project experience that I'd been experiencing in Toronto. So the money to afford the house also goes up. So music lessons just dropped off.
That story you told me about neighbors calling the cops on you guys playing piano.
Oh, yeah.
Is insane. Like, that's just, it's crazy to think that.
I think sometimes when people say, racism it doesn't really exist in Canada, it triggers me deep.
It's just not as loud. It's just not as
loud or as in your face. But it affects those.
Yeah, like they'll people. Yeah, like those people are probably just, like, giving you, like, shady. Like, they're just, like, looking at you weird, and then, like, won't say anything, but then they'll go and call the police.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what
whereas,
was
like,
happening.
in the States where you, like, people will, it's, like, way different. It seems people just sort of, like, let it fucking fly, just, like.
Yeah, it depends though, right? Because there were the people that would call the police and say, there's loud noises coming from that home, and it would be literally the piano. But then there were people that would throw bricks through the glass and yell nigger. So, I mean, that's pretty fucking loud.
Yeah.
Right? So it just depends on, I guess, where you are. Obviously the times are different now too. At that time, maybe it was a little more loud than it is now. It's 2019. We have to pretend to be more politically correct. Some of us actually are, but, most of us, many of us are not. Many of y'all are not. I remove myself from that because, my goal is my goal in life, especially as a musician, is to try to understand people and for them to understand me and to connect based on the messages that I'm sharing. And so I share with the intent to listen back, not just to tell people what my experience is. And I don't care how you feel. Like, if this is an ongoing discussion through a musical medium, that's my goal with this stuff. So, I don't like to use the word woke, but, like, my mind is always open to exploring, to learning, to growing. Travel is a big thing for that. I'm so excited to be here in Quebec right now. And to gain more perspective and to learn more about how other people live and how other people think. And to be honest, what other people think about people like me. I want that I want that harsh reality so that I can go into the next wave of music. I want to know, how I would be treated in different areas. Because I grew up in Canada. I'm a, GTA baby, if you will. Like Toronto, Brampton is like my home. So Quebec, people say a lot of stuff about Quebec. I don't know much about Quebec. I've never been here. This is my first time. And Quebec is also very different from Montreal, which is, the most, French speaking, area that we know in the GTA. So to come to Quebec, it's like, I'm excited to go out there and see how my music is received and, to see how different or how not different places really are. And, I think it comes from, my growing up, my experience. My parents very much sheltered us from the obvious and not so obvious racism that we were surrounded by. In schools, it was obvious but not so obvious, right? Like, and I was saying to my DJ today, actually, racism is a large reason why I don't speak French and why I can't communicate in the ways I would love to out here. I was in French immersion until grade 1, and I had a very unfortunate experience with a terrible teacher, and race was a big factor in that. And in order to focus on being educated, I had to take a step back from that class, which removed me from French immersion. And it's still affecting me to this day, because when I'm here in Quebec City, I can't read the signs, I can't read the menus. And it always makes me think of, the fact that my parents were like, look, all 4 of our daughters are going to be in French immersion. They're going to, you know what I mean? Like, this is the plan they set up for us. Yeah. And then other people can come in between it and mess up the plan because of their preconceived notions of what it is that, black youth should be like.
What do your parents think about your music now? It's funny because you tell me that, like, you were singing for, like, years, right?
Yeah.
And then, like, it just flipped to, like,
it's
rapping.
Super flipped. I mean, I sing too. So the beginning is obvious in the sound. My dad told me the other day that he's like, despite what you talk about, I'm so enthralled by your abilities and like just how you captivate the stage.
Well, like it's not like even like your subject matter is like that. Like
it's not that. I think that there's a like 1-2 thing. I think my dad would
or
be
anything like it's not even like it's that like graphic or anything. It's not like.
But my dad's like holistic. You know what I mean? So
okay.
For him to even hear his daughter like just be saying like F words and stuff, it's not classy. Like he's holistic in that way.
Yeah.
But he basically said to me that he understands. Like, though I might not agree with everything, like the way that you captivate a stage, that allows me to understand. He said it in only so many words kind of thing. So, like, I think that he, I think that he respects it for sure. Or I know that he respects it. And, like, I remember, like, seeing my dad out. He came to my release party I had at the Drake Underground for 13th Floor on May 4th. And the mood he was in, you could just see on his face. Like, I came off stage and he was just like, hi, my girl. Like, that. He looked like he was flying. Like, my dad doesn't smoke the way my dad doesn't smoke at all, actually. But that night I would be surprised if he didn't, because damn, he was so elated. My mom as well is very, very supportive of what I do. They both are. And my mom shows it in a different way. My mom shows it more like every day. Like every time I come home, like I hear myself being interviewed, like, and she's watching YouTube, or I hear her playing, like,
biggest fan.
Yeah, and if I come home and that's not happening, it will start. Like, she'll be like, "Oh yeah, I have a daughter that does this," and then she'll just go on my Instagram, and so she like stays on top of my stuff, like social media wise.
Yeah.
So my dad just talks to me because he doesn't do the social media stuff, but my mom like already knows everything. So when I come home, she's like, "So I heard that you did this, and I heard that you." Like, she's like my most invested fan.
My parents are kind of like that. And my parents, they were in, I think it was New York City, and they were in Times Square, and there was like rappers giving them mixtapes, for like $5 or whatever in Times Square.
Yeah, that's the hustle.
Bro, they like took pictures of like the covers and like the guy's information. They're like DMing me, be like, "Yo, we met these rappers, blah blah, for your show."
You're like, "Thanks, I'm not actually gonna."
It's so funny because they're just sort of like blindly supportive,
Yeah, they don't know
Parents
quite how to help, but they'll do whatever they can. But they're funny. So funny. But it's best when they're supportive. I've heard a lot of musicians say that their parents are not very supportive, and like that can be so discouraging. And so just to have that support, even though they may not fully understand it, and for them to kind of not question too much of what I'm doing or make me have to second guess what I'm doing, like I think that's one thing I really commend my parents for, is that they don't make me second guess what it is that I'm doing by asking certain questions or by saying certain things. It's very easy to project your own understanding of reality and be like, why do you wear a dress like that?
Yeah.
Or why do you? And I feel like outside of music, my parents would say certain stuff, but when it comes to like my craft, they're just like, go, we get it. We might not get it, but we get it. Go. And it's a beautiful thing. Because I don't think every musician has that, and like it hurts for those that don't. I know it's hard, and for me, it just makes it that much easier for me to just keep going, never stop. My friends and my family are the most supportive people in my life.
Do you have like the core people that you like show music to first?
Yeah. I show music to the first people I show music to be honest, is my tour manager. Is my sister's fiance actually, but my tour manager DJ Mighty Drew. I show it to him. I show it to my brother Mighty Prince. I show it to my DJ Chelsea or DJ Dem Ones. And my sister Omega Mighty, she's on Wishy Washy. DJ Dem Ones. She's behind the camera right now.
That's a crazy DJ
Cheesing.
name. Wow. DJ Dem Ones.
She whispered.
That's crazy. That's a sick name. Wow. That's so
But
fire.
yeah, so DJ Dem Ones, I'll show her. I'll show Andrew or DJ Mighty Drew. I'll show Omega or Dollface Dreddy. I'll show my brother Negus or Mighty Prince. And I'll show my boy Taboo or Spencer. He produced Wishy Washy. Or Tour Man. I'll show him stuff too. Also my manager Christina. There's like a circle. My boy Jason. I'll show him stuff if we end up hanging
you
out.
like know they're not gonna like bullshit you.
Yeah, I know the core, and they won't give me no finesse. No, they're not gonna finagle it and be like, oh well, you know, like. And then after I do that test, my mom is the most critical, so I won't show her until it passes the test of all those people, because my mom will actually cut you up. My mom will actually tell you, and then I'll show my dad, because I know if my mom could tolerate it, my dad likes anything my mom likes.
Right.
So, or not anything, but I feel like they have the same scope of, And there's certain songs I just won't show them if it's too inappropriate. I'm just like, you're just gonna hear it when it drops. I'm like, think what you think. Like, I'm not.
They like Wishy Washy?
They love Wishy Washy.
Yeah.
Wishy Washy is. I don't know why it says it's explicit online. It's actually not. There's no swearing in Wishy Washy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know if that was my error, but it's not explicit at all.
Interesting.
Yeah, but that's like that's the cleanest song on the album, and it's a great radio record. And my mom likes music like that. But
yeah, G 98.7 plays the fuck out of that.
Really? Oh.
Plays Wishy Washy. Yeah.
Oh, that makes me feel great.
Yeah.
Shout out G98.7.
Toronto radio for real.
Toronto radio. Yep. Ryan Chung. Shout you.
Wow, Ryan Chung, that's hilarious.
I think that's the only person I know by name at G. That's why I did that. Shout out everybody else though. I will meet you.
Are you working on something new?
I'm working on this set I'm about to play today at Festival d'été. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Festival d'été de Quebec.
Festival d'été de Quebec. Quebec.
Quebec, yeah.
Quebec, not Quebec.
No.
That's
no.
You're not from here. We're in Quebec, all right? And we are going to be performing at the. I can only do a French accent because I can't actually speak it, and my French accent probably sucks.
My advice to you
is to not.
Would be not do that here.
I'm actually not going to. Yeah. I thought about it as I started, and I was like, this is a bad accent, and this is a bad place to do that bad accent. So we're just gonna. I'll go back to the British. I was doing the British. Yeah. We'll go back to the British accent. I'm actually part British. You would never know by the way that I speak it. Yes, my mother was born in the UK. Did you know that?
No.
It's pretty exciting. Yeah. I know.
Okay, back to my question. You're not working on anything new?
Like, yeah. Oh,
like,
sorry.
Because
sorry.
Well, it's like 13.
That's the Sagittarius in me. I'm very playful.
It was like 13th floor mode. Like you're still in.
I'm still in 13th floor mode. 13th floor just came out, right?
Yeah.
I dropped it on May 10th.
Yeah.
I had to think about that. So it's been out for like a month and a half now. I'm definitely still in 13th floor mode. Yeah. There's a lot of cool things happening. Right now, I'm gearing up to see if I've made the short list of the Polaris. Mm-hmm. So I'm very excited about that. To have even been mentioned on the long list is very incredible. So I'm excited about that. I have some collaborations. That's so sick. Yeah. Just the recognition for it. And so I'm pumping out shows. I have a show tomorrow actually with the Sorority at Blues Fest. And then I have a show the next day. Shout out to Ottawa. And then I have a show in Guelph at Hillside on Sunday. So like 3-day run. We have a couple of those this month, like just like show runs. So this month is kind of like show runs. Next month is kind of that too. But I also have some collaborations that are about to get announced that people don't know about. So that's gonna drive a little bit of that middle of the summer stuff. Do
you learn from performing with Sorority, like anything that you can sort of take into your own, or vice versa, like things you learn performing by yourself that you can sort of like take back to Sorority, like like we should like blah blah, this kind of stuff? Absolutely.
Like I'm a solo artist first, right? I always remind people I'm a solo artist first. So yeah, I've been working on my live performance since I was 4 because singing lessons. Like you have to learn to capture the stage. Like from that time, I remember being the shyest, like standing outside with my mouth open. Like I remember being on, Ants in Your Pants on Channel 65 at the age of 6, singing that song, and that was my energy.
Whoa.
That was my energy. It was very
Throwback.
stiff and timid, and that was my energy, right? And it took many, many, many years to break out of that timidness, and that all happened through my solo growth, through starting with singing, then into rapping. The sorority became a thing in 2016. So that was after I already got a lot of the groundwork of live performance. But I will say, it wasn't the sorority; it was the cipher that changed. That changed my mentality on stage, which was 6 to 8 months before the sorority came to be. And we were invited. Me and 3 females were invited to be a part of a cipher. And now I'm in a crew with 2 of them, Lex Leosis and Keisha Fresh. And at the time, we were invited to be a part of this video, which was a cipher, all rap over the same beat. We didn't know each other.
I remember that.
Yeah, and it was, by that time, I obviously already had the stage presence to execute the way I did in the cipher video, right? But the way it was received was I have to do that every time. And I realized the necessity of live performance through the engagement out of that video. Yeah. And so I went into hardcore, create a new album. That was the Flower City era. I started making Flower City a month after that cipher video, which it dropped International Women's Day of 2016. So I started working on Flower City, and that's when my live performance really jumped, was kind of that year of solo focus.
You just watched it and you're just look, this is if I just do this every time, or if I just it's that same, you put the 10%, you get it back.
Exactly.
You're watching yourself on YouTube and you're look, it's when I put that, I'm just you're your own audience, and you're I'm enjoying this.
Exactly. And that was what it was. There was a difference between me enjoying my own performance in that video, and I took the time to understand those differences and the separation of that. And then when I joined the crew with the sorority, I kind of had that, because this was now 6 to 8 months after the cipher video that we even got that notoriety for. And then they have their own version of it, and it probably increased through the cipher video as well, because it went viral for all of us. So I feel when we became a crew, we already had this energy we pulled from our solo careers. And I feel we've just maximized it over time. What I really get from the sorority, outside of being able to breathe a little bit more on stage because there's other rappers, so you get to take some space, you get to dance, you get to have fun, you get to hype somebody else up. Outside of that aspect, it becomes a little more fun when you have someone on stage, and it feels a little bit less like work, even though it is. Because when I'm on stage, I use hardware. You have to be, a little bit more focused on, it's kind of my control, as opposed to not my control.
Well, it's small crew. It's you're
exactly.
It's what I'm doing right now. It's I'm not just the host of the show. I'm also the producer, and I'm also the editor, and I'm also So it's
you're the whole thing, and that's what it is for Haviah Mighty when I play shows. I mean, I have my DJ their ones now, but there was a long time where I DJ'd for myself, and in that 2016, 2017 era, I was literally scratching for myself and then running out, and so it was very I had to. But the sorority, it was more focusing on kind of the choreography aspect, the pre-planning aspect, the rehearsal aspect with other people, the importance of that, and also just kind of learning from other people from being on stage with them. What do you guys do on stage? What is your temperament? I definitely think my temperament on stage with the sorority is different than Haviah Mighty, though. Because I don't think it would, I have a very solo, look at me energy when I perform solo. I don't think it would work in a group. So I learned how to dial it back.
A lot of strength and a lot of
It's I'm here. I'm not on the camera anymore. I'm here. So I learned through the sorority, I think, a bit more dynamics, because with the sorority, if I were to do that, I think it would look imbalanced, and I naturally learned.
I think it might.
It would, right? So I think I naturally learned how to
picturing
it would just be too much, and
imagine they're on stage and you're out in the crowd.
Yeah, no group can have one person with that energy. Everyone would have to be on that level. And so naturally, the level that I'm at with the sorority is just a natural feeling on stage, right? But I took that back to my solo show, because sometimes I think I give too much too often. Yeah, they're sound checking right now. Sometimes I think I give a little too much too often, you know what I'm saying? So you'll be giving it all right away, and you have no sense of dynamic. So the audience kind of feels like they got it all within 10 minutes. Yeah. What I learned through the sorority is kind of tapping into that energy where you're not giving so much away, or you're not yelling right away. You can... Basically dynamics, which I now work into my solo show. So you start it might be here, but you learn to bring it down here.
Telling a story.
Yeah. And I think I learned more about telling a story through us live, because we had an album before I had an album.
Right.
I had Flower City, and I was DJing for myself, and I was still figuring it out. Then we put out Pledge, and then I put out 13th Floor. So in between my 2 albums, I had this whole line of practicing and playing in different areas and like let's travel across Canada and every
I was
show is a new experience.
I was
right?
thinking this morning. I don't know if you remember this. I booked you for a show when I was in college
I don't remember this.
at Humber. Do you remember that?
Did I play it?
Did you end up playing that show
I don't know.
at Humber College with Devontae?
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah, bro.
Darren Falana. Do you remember
yeah,
that?
you booked me for that.
I booked that. Because I
Crazy.
was like just starting doing photos and like doing photography, and I was like in like the small Humber community. I was like the rap photographer, and so they like
Okay.
came to me. They're like, "Yo, we want to put on like a rap show at."
See, he's been co-signing for time. I do remember that show.
That's
and
so
I
funny.
felt
I was thinking about that this morning.
I felt that was like 2 years ago now, maybe. And I remember what
It was
I
like
felt like.
2016 or something like that.
Or, yeah, 2016 or 17. And I remember what I felt like when I did that show. Like that was one of my biggest shows at that time.
Really?
Yes, it was. And I remember after that, the biggest show after that was probably opening for Designer at Mohawk. So it was like this progression. But it's crazy because I remember, like even Devontae, like I remember Devontae when I would see him on my DJ's Apple TV, and I thought this guy was American, and like he was just this huge rapper that wasn't local at all. And then I went to a show, Speak Your Piece or something, in 2016, and I saw him, and he was like, "What's up?" And I'm like, I thought this guy, you know,
he
and
did my show last week, and like he did like this show, and I was like, it blew my mind because it's like, to me, like if you know from like a couple years ago, from back when that show happened, like to me at that time, Devontae was like one of the sickest. Like it was bigger than Toronto, you know, at that time to me, and like maybe it's just like I was just like not as like into it, so I like didn't know as many
or
artists.
maybe we weren't aware. And he's still a big ass
like
deal.
that was like, but like Bare Tings had just come out, so that was like big like time.
Bare Tings, that was a bop.
He was telling me like about the first time that he saw. Remember, like Drake had that the teaser for "If You're Reading It's Too Late," and it had "Know Yourself" in the teaser, and it had like the drop.
Yeah.
Then right with us in my woes. They had like in that drop.
Yeah.
And it's like I was asking about because I remember hearing it for the first time, and thinking like, "This is crazy, like new sound, like this new wave." And I was asking like, how did he feel when he heard that for the first time? And he's like, it was like the best day of my life.
Really?
He was like, it was just the craziest thing. He just kept running it back over and over and over again.
Yeah, I remember hearing that too, and like there's something about that movement, and that it kind of moved into OVO or became a part
I heard. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
really
know what happened there, but I do know
that's
that
like lost Toronto history.
Yeah, someone knows, but ain't nobody talking. But ain't my business. But I will say that Devontae is dope, and I remember that I met him at Speaker Piece briefly, and then the first time I got to officially chop it up with him was at that show. And at that time, he was like, "Yo, we should work together." We talked about it. And then, we've obviously built a rapport over the years. And the last time I saw him was in May in Europe. We were in Rotterdam together.
Yeah.
We said the same thing. And so I'm sure me and Devontae will do something. He's really talented. Producer, rapper. He can sing too, you know. Like, he's dope. Yeah.
I wish we had another half hour.
I wish so too. What time? Oh,
yeah, we got 1 minute.
Out of time.
Okay, I need 2 food recommendations from you, quick.
Gluten-free and vegetarian. I say this
Yes.
because I'm gluten-free and I'm vegetarian. I'm not going to specify the foods. Look into your options. But I will say, as someone who doesn't have a choice, and I have to be gluten-free because my stomach says so, for those that do have a choice, here's why it can be helpful. Yes.
Why should I be gluten-free? I'm definitely not. I am definitely not eating properly.
Why? I just say be gluten conscious. I wouldn't even say necessarily be gluten free. I'm gluten free because my stomach said fuck that shit, and that happened in 2016. That was an interesting year for me. 2016, a lot of things changed.
Do you remember that? You know that movie? You know the movie This Is the End, like the Seth Rogen movie.
Yeah.
Remember like when they're like at it's right in the beginning. They're like going to get fast food, and he's like, "Oh, you want to go get like some In-N-Out?" And he's like, "I'm on a cleanse right now."
I'm trying to remember this.
He's like, I'm not eating any gluten.
Oh,
he's like, and the other
I
guy,
vaguely
and
remember
then
this.
Jay is like, "Yo, do you even know what gluten is?" And he's like all things in life that like sort of are not good for you are glutens. Like, you know, like booze is a gluten. Like, you know, like.
I vaguely remember this.
And then he's just like, he's like, but you're like still smoking weed every day, right? And he's, oh yeah. I'm not fucking insane.
Yeah. Well, so as someone who's gluten free and smokes weed every day, I'm gonna go ahead and co-sign Seth Rogen. But for real though, why should someone look into being gluten conscious or gluten free if they choose to go that far? It's actually just not good for most of us. It's bread converts into sugar, which converts into fat in your body. It's one of the easiest ways to feel bloated and to keep that bloating consistent because you don't feel as full as you eat it and you don't get the same like sort of like gratification from feeling full as you will like it's sitting in your system and like taking a long time to break down. And it can cause other ailments. It can cause skin ailments, dandruff issues, hair issues. It could just affect many people in many different ways. I know for me it has a multitude of effects, but the major effect is my stomach is like nah. So I said nah. So yeah, just look into it. Look into the ways that it makes you feel and the ways that it makes you lethargic after you intake it and how much of it that you intake. I'm pretty sure that I'm gluten intolerant now. I don't know if I'm celiac per se, but I'm pretty sure that I can't intake gluten anymore because I overate it. And I think that I over consumed gluten because I was vegetarian, raised vegetarian. And so I had so much less, I had no meat. So I was filling it with all these different types of breads with every meal. And I think my system just got overloaded. But also on the vegetarian aspect, I was born and raised vegetarian, so I can't speak so much on the taste. I'm sure it's incredible. I'm sure it's amazing. I've heard all my life how much I'm missing out on. So, again, I wouldn't say necessarily go vegetarian, but just be conscious of how much meat that you're intaking and the ways that it makes you feel. I have many friends, like my DJ Dem ones, my boy Spencer, my sister Omega. These are all vegetarians, or at least pescatarians. And I think the ways in which they made those conversions is just kind of like looking at the people around them and the ways that the food intake was affecting them and their body type, for example, maybe what they wanted to change about their body. But also I think mostly with meat, what I've heard, because I've never eaten it, is kind of how it makes you feel and how long it sits in your system and like what your shits look like and what they smell like and what your farts smell like. Maybe I'm going too far with this.
And I think that's probably a good place to end this.
Yeah, what your farts smell like might be affected by your meat intake. All right, that's the Drew Yorke Show. Have a great day.
Thank you for doing this.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Okay, this has been the Drew Yorke Show. Thank you for watching. Until next time.